Welcome to Finance Leaders Retirement Insights, the broadcast where we sit down with thought leaders in the world of finance who reveal their unexpected wisdom on the issues impacting retirement.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Finance Leaders. Today we're joined by another thought leader in financial services, Dave Nieto. Hi Dave, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Jeff. Hope things are going well.
Well, they're going well because we've got you on today. So
Awesome.
Before we get into some of the interview questions, I'd love to introduce the viewers today to you and how you got into the financial services business and what inspired you to get into this crazy industry.
Yeah, great question. I think really, as it boils down to looking at the last 20 some years, I would say it goes back to my days in the technology arena where I was working real heavily on the technology side, but was introduced to finances during the Y2K days and, the scares around that. But it made me, I think, more aware back then, that finances were, I guess, important to every aspect of every piece of, what we do. And as we moved on further into the next crisis of '08, that's, I think, really when I was, I guess, baptized in the world of finances more.
This is an industry where there's a lot of people that kind of look like everyone else. It's
Right.
Similar products, similar services. Sometimes it's hard to kind of tell why I'd want to work with one financial professional versus another. Maybe tell us a little bit about how your practice is different, how you set yourself apart from other financial professionals in the industry.
Well, if we elaborate a little bit on how I got started, I think really when we hit '08 and that big crisis, I seen too many people that were losing money and not understanding why. And when it really hit hard is that my grandmother and my mother suffered through some of that, essentially where they both lost all of their retirement income. And, by the grace of God, the family took over and helped grandma until she passed, which was, nobody ever wants to be a burden. And she was big in that, going through the depression and what have you. But, so not having enough money, I think really kind of solidified me wanting to get into things a little bit more. And then when mom got to that point too, where I really wanted to start focusing and working with more people, helping those people understand that, some of these things can be alleviated. So I think moving forward in that finance career and helped me pursue, some ideas and, building off of that. So, mom and grandma played a very integral part as far as where I'm at today. Even though they're not with me, I know that they're still in my heart, and I still think that they are a big part of what I'm doing today.
Well, it's always tough when you see your own family members suffer from, lack of knowledge, being exposed to market risk, having suffered needless losses that made it a difficult time during retirement, or maybe, put a lot of extra burden on the family to help keep them afloat.
Absolutely.
So I know a lot of folks probably watching today may be considering having a conversation with a financial professional just to see, what's possible, what they can do differently, what they can do better. It might be a little stressful or scary for them because, you might be a stranger. They're going to be examining kind of their entire financial life. A lot of times people think, gosh, I've made mistakes. I've done things wrong. I'm a little embarrassed about where I'm at in my financial life. How do you help address that fear of maybe having that first discussion, taking the plunge, no matter where you're at now and what you've done in the past?
Because of COVID, we had to make kind of a shift there back in 21. And and rely more on video and conferencing and phones. But I think it really boils down to one thing: is building a relationship. And I think a lot of that. I think a lot has to deal with people wanting to talk to someone but not knowing who to talk to, whether that be a financial advisor or somebody that's a friend of theirs looking for maybe a referral, or just somebody that you actually run into at coffee or something, and the conversation leads that way. But it's just important to me to start building a trust with that person. And it has to be a two-way street. It really has to be where someone wants to have that conversation. But if you can't build that trust and build that relationship up front, it's really not probably going to go too farther. But I think that's one of the things that I really believe that's one of the things where I think I can help individuals that are looking for someone to talk to, is break those barriers of fear. I think fear is sometimes what throws people, throws that curveball where they don't really want to talk to someone, but they need to talk to someone. So hopefully just building a relationship right out of the gate and having some good conversations and understanding what they want to do.
Well, I think if anything, procrastinating is never, to your advantage when it comes to finance. Obviously, we know about the power of compound interest, and the longer you wait, the less powerful it is, right? So in finance, delay is, a less bright future typically financially. So it's always great to either get that second opinion, or if you've been a do-it-yourselfer and kind of doing all your own financial stuff, find out a little bit more about some things that maybe you never knew about. I know you work with some unique strategies to help people untax their retirement, and these are things that maybe they don't know about that could make a big difference to them by being able to recapture their taxes and put that to use in their own retirement.
Absolutely.
Obviously, you've been around for a while. You've helped a lot of clients. Is there a situation where maybe you've helped somebody that was in a difficult situation that you helped them navigate to a better outcome than they thought was possible?
I think that happens on a weekly basis. I think just having conversations with individuals who say, hey, things aren't looking good. They're fearful that maybe their assets aren't, being taken care of appropriately. I think every day, or at least a couple times a week, having those conversations is part of the accomplishments and the achievements with the success stories. First thing this morning right away is a call. I have a client that's 2 hours west of me, and he was very concerned, but he knows it's time to start thinking about his retirement income, and what that looks like. So those type of things that are happening every week are the success stories. And as it turns out, I'm going to meet with him this Saturday, and he just no way can work, or no way that he can meet during the week because of his work. So him and his wife, and he says, hey, my adult children want to start having a conversation as well. To me, those are achievements. Those are success stories.
Well, and his concerns are probably economic turbulence right now. We've got wars going on, inflation. So he's worried about making sure that he's going to have enough for retirement, or that maybe there's an event that might expose his existing assets to market loss.
Right. Yeah, that's a big fear. That's part of it.
Well, I know the research shows that probably the number one fear that people have in life that's even greater than the fear of dying is the fear of running out of money in retirement. So it's something that, with a little planning and the right strategies, obviously they can solve in advance.
Absolutely. Yeah. The fear of taxes as well.
Yeah, that's kind of a lingering one too. We know that that's poised to go up. I think the most recent news out of the administration is that they're going to allow the Trump tax cuts to expire, which means everyone's tax brackets are going to go up. So everyone's going to be paying more taxes, regardless of what the propaganda says. We know that the marginal tax rates at every bracket actually go back up. In addition to that, the amount of income that's taxed goes down, so you get less at each of the lower brackets, right?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
if you're concerned about taxes, obviously having a good strategy to mitigate those, in your retirement income, now is the time to start doing something about it. Tell me a little bit more about these untaxed retirement income plan strategies. A lot of people probably have accumulated money in a 401k, an IRA, and have deferred those taxes. Do you have some strategies that actually can help them untax their retirement?
Yeah, we have a handful of strategies, and when we get down to it, that's part of that conversation, those initial conversations. What are their goals? What does their financial roadmap look like today? What do they want it to look like? And kind of going back to the fears and everything. But let's break those barriers. Those type of conversations require a lot of questions. And then as they start going through, their thought process, challenge them. So I think if we start looking at what they really want to do, so yeah, there's several strategies that we look at. And at the end of the day, I think really the biggest thing that I like to focus on, is how do you handle your retirement? What does the income look like during retirement? How secure is your money and your assets? Like we talked about, are you going to run out of money? That's a big fear. And there's a third piece there that doesn't get talked about a lot, and that's how are you going to handle your healthcare costs? That's a big concern. And a lot of times people, well, I hadn't thought about that. So healthcare costs, long-term care costs, all of these things are part of those strategies to make sure that we make that financial roadmap look like, well, maybe like the Golden Brick Road. So, but anyway, it's something that's not one particular strategy fits everyone. And I think that's a big misconception with a lot of clients or prospects that I'm working with, is that there's a fix for everything. There's one fix for everything. Well, that's just simply not the case. Everybody's situation is different. My financial situation is different than yours, Jeff. Ours are different than everybody else's that we work with. So we have to make sure that we fit the strategy that will work for those individuals.
Well, and I think the other thing, and you kind of alluded to this, is that the risks during the accumulation stage are very different from the risks that you might experience in the income stage, the retirement income stage, because you might be exposed to much greater healthcare costs than you had during your accumulation stage, and the risk of potentially long-term care decimating your assets, which could put you in a position where you're going to run out of retirement income, because those can be fairly large exposures. So a lot of different things come up, and obviously you're looking at everyone's unique scenario and helping figure out all the pieces of the puzzle that make sense, including the tax piece, which is often overlooked as well.
Yeah, it's two important phases there that you mentioned, is the accumulation phase, and then the distribution phase, the income phase, during retirement. And those are two separate thought processes that have to be addressed. And I think a lot of times, a lot of advisors forget about the distribution, so they're so focused on accumulation, which is great because a lot of these individuals have done really well with the accumulation phase. But when it gets down to distribution, they don't understand what the next steps are.
Well, and I think that there's a big difference between accumulation and distribution too. The accumulation phase, one, you have a lot of runway. There's a lot of time in front of you to make mistakes and recover from those mistakes. When you get to the distribution phase, if you make mistakes, that might mean you run out of money, and you're going to look for a Walmart greeter job, right? And we don't want to put anybody in that situation. So it's a little bit more technical and a little bit more precise. A lot of advisors don't necessarily have expertise in that area. They're maybe good at helping someone with the accumulation, but don't have the expertise to make sure that you have a solid plan that doesn't leave you, high and dry without resources at some point because there were mistakes made. and you can't be exposed to certain risks on the distribution side.
Absolutely.
So
It'll mean everything during the distribution to make mistakes, and that whole fear, the whole thing about fear of running out of money.
yeah, it's a little bit more sensitive to mistakes for sure. So I know a lot of folks out there maybe have been do-it-yourselfers. They don't exactly know if the assets they have are going to take them all the way through retirement. Maybe they don't even really have clarity about what they really want or when they want to retire. How do you help somebody have clarity about where they're at and how far away they are from maybe the objectives they have?
So great question. I think once you sit down with someone and you've built that relationship, you built that trust, and they like you, you can start talking about, are they satisfied with what they have today? Are they truly satisfied? They may be. But if they're not, then let's have a conversation about, how we make some changes. What are the consequences of that? There may be some cost, or there may be some risk. Are they comfortable with doing some of those things to make those changes? So if they're really not satisfied, then, it's like, okay, you're aware of what's going on. You're aware that you need to make some changes. So let's start talking about changes and how we fix those, however that might be with the assets that they have in hand. I think a great question, is it better than what you're doing today? If you're not doing better, you hear this a lot, how are you today versus you were 5 years ago? So if they feel like things are going in the wrong direction, then let's start having conversations on how we get things back on track, get back on the right financial roadmap.
Well, like you said, it all starts with having that initial conversation, which.
Well, I think it's just so important. If they're not satisfied, or they've recognized that there's a big problem, then, it's like, okay, they're aware of something. They're aware they need to make some fixes. And then that's when you start digging it a little bit more and, looking at how maybe coming up with different options, different strategies. We talked a little bit, all those different strategies. What strategies is going to best fit for you? Is it going to be, strategy 1, 2, 3, or 4, but you have to take a look at all of those and talk about, why these changes are going to help them with, making them aware that things are on the right track.
Well, I think that's probably the fun part for you, where you have a chance to kind of solve the puzzle. You get a picture, of the big picture that they want to accomplish, and figuring out where the right pieces of the puzzle are to accomplish what they're looking to do.
Absolutely.
Well, Dave, as we get closer to the end of our time here today, what advice would you offer somebody who's actually considering seeking out a financial professional, maybe for the first time or for a second opinion, to make sure they're on the right track?
Well, I think the best thing I could offer anybody is do their own research. Don't rely on their neighbor. Don't rely on their cousin or their brother or sister. Do their own research. Go out there and look at, what they're trying to get accomplished, and maybe, pick a handful of people that they can contact. I think it's important to, I think it's really important that once you do your research, you're going to say, well, this guy's specialized in doing distribution instead of allocation, or whatever the situation, because they're aware of what they need to make changes. So I think it's really important, if they really do their research, they may be able to start narrowing down, who they need to talk to. And if they could do that, they can, okay, they're not going to get, they're not going to get the pushback, or they're going to get on the phone with someone and start feeling more comfortable and, start having some questions right out of, in that initial conversation. So I always say, do your research and don't rely on, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, whatever. Do your own research to make sure it's your decision.
Well, yeah, and in the end, ultimately, learning about new ideas and strategies, it's still ultimately their decision to implement,
Right.
But at least now they know what they didn't know.
Exactly.
So Dave, I noticed you have a flag in the background there, and I know from having conversations with you prior to our interview today that you spent some time in the U.S. Marine Corps. How's that had an influence on how you run your business and work as a financial professional?
Okay, so being a Marine is something special. It's something that's not given to you. It's something you have to earn. You are part of a elite group of individuals in the entire military, United States military. 1 to 2% of the population in the United States join the military. Out of that 1 or 2%, there's less than 1% of those numbers that have actually earned the title of Marine. So by doing so, the training that you've done over the years have really instilled that to do the right things and to do them right, you have to have the training. In our profession, Jeff, we have to have the training. We are licensed professionals where we have to go through the necessary training to get our license. We have to go through the necessary training each year to maintain our license, the continuing education, as they call it. But it goes a step further for me. It goes a step further by attending seminars, by going to other financial meetings. I have a couple of websites that I do some reading on. So, a lot of times in the evening, my wife will ask me, she says, "What are you reading?" And I say, well, it's, as it is, it's one or two things. It's either about finances or it's about the Marine Corps. So it just kind of goes hand in hand, I think, as far as the fabric that's been instilled into me to continue on doing what I'm doing in the financial world, to be that person to help individuals, make those right decisions, because I think that there are too many individuals that aren't doing their research and getting hooked up with someone, and they're not really making the right decisions, so but anyway, I think there's a lot of correlation when you look at the training and the dedication that takes for both areas, both the Marine Corps and the finance world.
Well, as a non-military guy myself, I always think of the Marines as maybe like a higher standard, someone that's very disciplined, focused, has integrity or ethics. All of those things kind of go hand in hand with that to me.
It is something that is definitely part of our training, that I think that, it's not saying that there's bad apples in the Marine Corps, because there are. There's people that get booted out just as much, but there's also the individuals in the world of finances that do the wrong things, cut corners, and I think my track record has proven itself. But it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate people don't have, I think, that that drive inside them to keep doing better, to keep wanting to do better, to be successful, not necessarily just for me and my family, but to help other people. Because we talked about achievements, and it's really fulfilling to me. And I know what I'm going to see this weekend, because this client that I've had for 5 to 10 years now, and watch his family grow and how they're making some really great decisions. Instead of having annual conversations with him and his wife, now it's annual conversations with the whole family. So it's become quite fulfilling, very much so.
So Dave, obviously, you're busy day to day with helping clients and new folks that come into the office or get on your calendar. What do you do when you're not, doing the day-to-day financial stuff?
Great question, Jeff. Being a Marine Corps veteran is special, and I think I mentioned that earlier, but it is something that I want to give back to the younger Marines these days that are coming back from, what we call the sandbox, Iraq, of Afghanistan. But a lot of these Marines, and it could be, those that are, needing a lot of help. But I'm part of a nonprofit organization. it's a nationwide organization called the Marine Corps League. And we have one mission really only, and that is to help any veteran or current active Marine that needs help in any matter. That could be from simply helping them move from one location to the other. More recently, we had a big tornado come through Omaha where I think it was a Category 3, Category 4, where it wiped out somewhere around 300 homes. And any of those Marines that were lived in that area, they know how to contact us, and we'll set up whatever we can do to, help those individuals. All of our resources are generated from fundraisers, and we have 3 or 4 of them throughout the year that we raise money. And then we get donations from individuals as well to help us. But, so if I'm not sitting down with clients, I'm typically doing something helping with that organization and looking at doing that a little bit more as time goes on. Really enjoy it.
Well, it sounds like another good way to make a positive impact on society, not just through your financial occupation, but what you do for fun and
Right.
Helping folks out through a charitable organization.
Yeah, it's a worthwhile, satisfying, rewarding, something to give back. Yes.
So Dave, it looks like we're getting close to the end of our time here today. If somebody was interested in learning more about how you can help them and transform their financial life and their retirement, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, the easiest way probably is to find the phone number. My website is available out there. My LinkedIn, my Facebook page for my firm, they're all available. And my phone number is out there, and it's not just my office number, my cell number. So feel free to give me a call, and let's just create a nice little introduction and move forward to next steps from there. So always looking forward to having conversations, and if I don't answer the phone, I will return your call. That's something that I think is important.
Well, Dave, I really appreciate you taking the time to appear on Finance Leaders today. Obviously, you're making a difference for the clients that you serve, and hopefully the folks that are watching today will take some time to reach out and get on your calendar.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Finance Leaders Retirement Insights. Be sure to check out our other top advisor interviews at financeleaders.net.